Evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Welcome to Women Lead. It is 7 o'clock and it is time for our meeting to begin. Tonight we have a workshop, so I will turn it over to Rania.
Hey everyone, welcome to our meeting today, which is going to have a different agenda. We have a workshop, evaluation workshop by Abhijeet, Joshi, and Lindy MacLaine. So Lindy is a distinguished Toastmaster, and she has been to the semifinals of World Championship at least 4 times, and she won the 3rd place of World Championship for public speaking in 2020. Welcome, Lindy, to our club. Of course, Abhijeet, he needs no introduction, definitely. And now they will first be running our workshop, and then we have 7 evaluators who are interested in doing the evaluation. And each of you will be given 2 to 3 minutes to share the evaluation of our test speaker, which is Preeta. And after your evaluation, you'll be getting feedback from Abhijeet or Lindy.
Sit.
Okay. So let's start with the speech today. Before that, I want to introduce the functionary. We'll just have the timer today.
Carrie Lynn, I think, on a phone.
Yeah. Kim, do you want to introduce your role as timer?
As the timer this evening, I will be sharing my role with Gloria. Gloria is going to be the online timer and I am going to be the in-person timer. And so the evaluations are from 2 to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Now over to Abhijeet and Lindy. Go ahead with the
Lindy, how are you doing, Lindy?
I'm doing fine, mighty leader. Looking forward to our venture together tonight.
Yes. It will be a fun party. How much time do we have? Because it's hard for me to stop, so you have to stop, Lindy. Huh? Okay, so we'll try to stop by 7:50. Yeah. And then we'll start with this meeting. Valuations can change our lives. And today it's going to be Lindy and me co-presenting it. Lindy, feel free to add any time. Before I start, I want to start with 3 things. 3 things we need for evaluation. One is critical thinking. Second one is active listening. Third one is heart. Yes, ma'am? If you will go to Toastmasters clubs and you will see many evaluations. There's no heart. If there is no heart, you cannot change the behavior. Today our title is going to be Evaluate. So let's get it started. It's going to be, we are not going to cover everything. Last time I made a mistake of covering everything, but today, okay. Let's start with why evaluations are necessary. And then we'll talk about the radical character compass, followed by the magic of I statements. How should we use the I statement? And the system and structure which we use for the evaluation. Back. What is the over there? So now the vocabulary is not. When I say your vocal variety is not good, it's an opinion. It's not a feedback. We'll talk about what an ideal feedback is. Then we'll go into the superlatives and one key thing, how to get better. We will not cover this, but I'll give you the slide deck. So you will know what these are. It's not a complete list of what needs to be evaluated. It's just a small sample of 12 things which we need to do. And question and answers. You can ask us questions anytime. One thing I learned from Lindy in evaluations is she demonstrates. Whenever she gives an evaluation, she will demonstrate how to make it. And because of that, her evaluation stand up. So let's get it started. My first question to you is, why are evaluations?
So that they know what they have to work on.
Any other?
Point of buying a car is to go places. The point of doing something is to better or to see the results, and that's what evaluation does.
In terms of the evaluator itself, it's a very nice, as you said, active listening. So in order to practice that, it is essential for any other, say you're in a one-on-one meeting, how do you respond to whatever they say? So from the evaluator's perspective too, it is very important to develop that skill, not just the speaker.
So it's a two-way process, learning for the person who is talking and the person who is evaluating. So obviously, like everybody take it as a good feedback for a speaker, but I feel evaluator also learn by listening and by giving a productive feedback, or you can say constructive feedback, and the way they present it.
Very, very true. And I want to mention the name of Kyle Hall, who is a good friend with Lindy MacLaine. And one thing I learned from him is sometimes I can emulate things the speaker does. Because sometimes I'm not as good of a speaker as they are. We can learn something. One more thing I want to mention is whenever you hear a speech, it doesn't matter if it's the best speaker in the world or if it's an icebreaker. What you have to share is how you feel when you hear the speech. The feelings which come, that's an evaluation. Everyone has the feelings when they hear the speech. If you can articulate that, that becomes a really good evaluation. So always remember the why. Why do we evaluate? And when during the evaluations, I want you to remember these three. First thing is always radical candor. We'll talk more about it. And the final thing is the ideal feedback, which has a why and a specific example. So remember, these two components are very important. That becomes an ideal feedback. Why and a specific example. Let's go into the radical candor. What is radical candor? I learned this from my mentor. She always talks about a book by Kim Scott. She talks about how to give feedback at work. Whatever we are doing here today applies to us. I learned from Dennis and Kim Scott what is radical candor. Let's go into it. Radical candor is just a combination of X and Y. Now, when you look at this, where should be your evaluation?
Right at the top right. Diagonally on the top right.
Any other? We'll go through each and every quadrant. Maybe feel free to add again. I will not talk about this because I don't see this in Toastmasters, and I think we are here. So let's talk about this. I remember 3 years ago, I was in Bangalore. There was a level 5 speaker. As soon as he started giving a speech, I realized he's not prepared. And his speech is not meeting the objectives. When I gave the evaluation, I never talked about it. It was never true to my heart. And that is truly separate. It's silent. This is second worst quadrant because I'm not adding any value.
That quadrant can also be called whitewashing, when you just whitewash, you just give positive and never say anything constructive.
Yeah, ruinous empathy. Watch that. Obnoxious aggression. Lindy, do you have an example about obnoxious aggression? I'm a work expert.
Yes, actually, but I'm not sure I should bring it or not. Well,
Make a base.
shortly after I placed third in the world, I was invited to a group where there were world-class speakers who were going to review all of the winners. And when someone gives you criticism that isn't, I don't know, it hurts your feelings and it makes you angry. That's all I can say.
I'll talk about my example. It was maybe December of 2018 or 2019. I went to a Christmas lunch. My boss was the director. As we all assembled for the Christmas lunch, there was this manager in the group. Somehow I realized if this manager ever becomes my boss, I'm going to change my role. Somehow I just had that feeling. And behold, in February of 2021, he became my boss. And when my boss told me that he's becoming my boss, we had a fight. 3 months. I had my review with him. You didn't do anything for last 1 year. That's it. I was done. I said, what I had decided I'm going to do it now. I changed my group within 2 months. So that was obnoxious aggression. So watch that. Now let's go to the best one. Wow, I can feel the heat. Compassionate. I want to share a story with you. I was a area director for the club. And there was a guest speaker named Raghu. He was speaking for the first time. And I was also meeting him for the first time. He was giving a humorous speech for 18 to 22 minutes. I messaged him after his speech was done. Hey, you want me to give you a direct feedback or a little bit of whitewash feedback? He said, give me a direct feedback. I said, okay, I'll do it. I unloaded everything for him. Whatever I felt in my heart. But from that time onwards, we became good friends. I was giving him a feedback in such a way that he was able to absorb it and apply. Lives the way we give feedback. Lindy, to you, compassionate candidate.
There was a woman in my home club in the first years where I was a member who practiced this with such grace and beauty. And it was not only about being honest and being caring. It is about thinking that what you want when a person walks away is for them to feel excited to apply your suggestions, not to feel like, oh, there was something I did wrong, but to feel like, oh, yes, I can do that. So there is a real art to being able to present feedback with candor that is also based in such care that it is so full of encouragement that it inspires the person that you are evaluating.
And the way it happens is the words which we use. I will never say, hey, here are the ways you can improve your speech on, or here is the criticism. Here are the things you did effectively, and here are the things you could do to make your speech more. See the way how it lands on you. So if you see, no change, little change, I became very defensive. Profound change. Maximum amount of it. Any questions? Nandini, any questions from you?
No, I think I'm getting it. I think I like to see examples maybe when you get there, maybe with examples on what exactly is radical candor and where does it become rude versus being empathetic. I think that would be good.
Definitely, definitely.
Aligning with Nandini, so one question I always have is when I want to give feedback, sometimes I want to say something which I have too much empathy to not say that.
Can you give a specific example?
Okay, one specific, like, not any particular speaker, but sometimes when people speak, they're so wound up in themselves that they're not being authentic. The whole speech seems like a show rather than authentic speech. And that is one feedback that I find very difficult to give. I mean, please be authentic, and I really want to see who you are up there. But I don't know how to say that because it's just rude.
So here is the way I would have said, or sometimes I say it too direct but I'll say it in a very soft manner. So one of our clubmates came for the first time. She gave a speech. She's a phenomenal speaker. But after her speech, I got a chance to be with her. I said, I did not feel your heart. See, I used the I statement and I was not feeling. Nandini, we will come back to that. We will talk about that, okay?
So Abhijeet, I could not
Yes.
hear the last sentence that you said. I think there was a pause for online viewers.
Yes, definitely. I said, I did not feel your heart.
Okay, thank you.
Lindy, anything, how can we put it into words
I
for
think
compassionate?
using I statements is absolutely essential. Saying, in my opinion, my experience of this was, then it becomes simply about you and therefore not as likely to be critical in the way that you're afraid to do, that you're talking about.
Thank you, Lindy. Whenever we are evaluating, we have to be very careful. I'll tell you why. I was in an evaluation competition. I had won at my club level. We had 8 people and I had won it. But when I went into the quarterfinals, each was about video games. And I have no desire for video games. So when I was evaluating, my heart was not there because it's like, what the hell? I don't care. I don't care. Yes. And people see it is like I was placed second. So if you don't like the person, keep that aside. If you don't like the topic, keep that aside. It matters. Like what you're evaluating is the speech content, the delivery, and the impact of that speech. The 3 things we evaluate. So here we'll start the I statement. I was reading this, I haven't read the complete book, but I'll just tell you. I was reading this autobiography of him. And as I was reading this, there was this one quote. Observation, not judgment, is the highest form of human intelligence. Observation, not judgment, is the highest form of human intelligence. Whenever we are evaluating, we are just sharing our observations. And when we share our observations, they need to come in the form of I language. Simplest observational I language. I words are, I saw, I felt, I heard. Oh, sorry. They're very simple observations. I saw, I felt, I heard. But there are more. Let's go to the full list. Nandini, these words will help you a lot. This makes a big difference. Simple observations. I heard, I felt, I saw. Something that really stood out for me. I loved, I liked, or I enjoyed. something that was confusing, or you did not dislike, or you disliked it. Like there was a speaker, he gave a really good speech. It was a tall tale. I enjoyed it, but he had so many props that every 5 seconds he was moving. So it was kind of a disconnect. So I told him I dislike the usage of too many props. And if you want to see something, like to see how the story ended, I would like to see if you develop the story. Something like that. Remember, these I statements can make a big difference when you're doing it. I'll also give you this slide back. It's, oh, loud. Sorry. Okay, system. What kind of system do we use? It depends upon you. Lindy, you want to talk about the system you use?
No, you go ahead, yours is perfect.
So what I do is, I do very simple. I just take a page, divide it into 2 parts. Things the person did effectively, things the person can do to make it more effective. And if something really stands out, I'll use a star mark. If I'm confused by something, I'll use a question. So this is the system which we use. I'll give you this slide. Remember, an evaluation is also like a speech. It has an introduction, it has a body, and a conclusion. In the introduction, the first 20 seconds are very, very important. Just talk about how did the speech impact me, or what did the speech remind me of. Like for example, my friend was giving a speech about going back to the car rather than camping. Talked about it was getting really cold. So it was 4 hours long hike back to the car. They did that. And the way I started my evaluation. Hey David, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. I would have camped back to the car because when it comes to cold, I'm not so well. I'm making a mention that was 20. And then the body and the summary. So here is what the introduction, the body, and the summary. Speech effective. Lindy, go ahead. Anything?
Are we talking about method now? Because if that's what we're doing, I just want to show you. So I use my paper portrait style with a line down the middle. On the left side, there's a plus. On the other side is a triangle for change, delta. And then I write all over this during the speech, and everything is not always in the right place. It's a mess. But then what I do is take another piece of paper to plan what I'm going to actually say. I circle which points are the most outstanding, the ones I can demonstrate most clearly, the ones that I feel will be most helpful. So I get a rough draft where I just get everything down that I'm thinking or not thinking. No one ever sees this, so there's no reason to filter. And then on the other one, I can then choose which parts have value. So there's a brain dump, and then there's a reorganizing. Okay, go ahead.
Remember, brain dump and then reorganize. Active listening. There are so many things. You don't have to share a full laundry list. Only thing you have to share is 2 things the speaker did effectively, 2 things the speaker could do to make the speech more effective, and the best thing about the speech. And this is also very important. How do you recap? When I recap, I change the order. I talk about these things first. By this, and then the best thing. I want to make it a nice.
That's one of the reasons that Abhijeet's evaluations are so artful, because by doing the summary that way, he's essentially using what Toastmasters calls the sandwich method. So he talks about what they did well, what they can do better, then he repeats what they can do better and ends on what they can do well, with, of course, the slice down the middle of what the very best thing, and that's the last thing he says too. So you get a lot of positive when you listen to Abhijeet's evaluations.
Any questions regarding this? Yes.
You know, Abhijeet, I use some of these techniques, but one of the things I've also found effective when you're in a club doing it, trying to help other people, that laundry list, because sometimes you do get a whole bunch of things that are for very inexperienced speakers. I give that in the written summary, so I'll add more in the written evaluation so they can really, oh, that. Oh, yeah, that. But I don't necessarily include it in the verbal if it's.
Very, very true. That's very good. The verbal is very different and the written is going to be different. You can go unload yourself on the written.
I would like to add something. I follow what Linda did, like, one column on positive, one column negative, but then I have three rows. Three rows match to what you just said, I statements. I saw something, I heard something, I felt something. So I saw, what did I see in terms of body language? Positive, negative. The second row, I heard what kind of words they used, positive, negative. And the third one is I felt. So that kind of simplifies it a little further.
Very good, Kiran. Any other questions? Yes.
If there are multiple evaluations in the negative, how do you choose the top two?
Lindy?
Could you repeat the question? I couldn't hear it very well.
How do you choose the top two in the list of evaluation?
How,
Mostly negative. I mean, yeah, things that can be improved.
well, the first thing I do is to look and see what will make the most difference. And then will filter that by their experience. If they'll have no idea what I'm talking about when I say that, then it might not be the best thing to say. If they're just a beginner, then giving advanced suggestions is not going to encourage them. So some of it depends on who's receiving it. But I also just look for which brush strokes are going to make this speech shift it with the most ease. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
I'm in
I
a
have a
thought.
question.
Right, Nandini.
Yeah, what if I hear a speech and maybe I didn't like it much at all? How do I, put that across so that the person gets it, but at the same time being empathetic? But the bottom line is I did not like the speech.
Lindy, you're very good with this.
Without having heard the speech that you're talking about, I would say often that things that we don't like are things that are a mismatch to our values or that push our buttons or something like that. And those are all about us, not about them and their speech. So it's important to try to keep that filter separate of what part of my reaction has to do with the fact that I really don't care about the subject. Maybe it was garbage delivery in the community or something, and what part of it is actually that the way that they did it did not communicate it in a really clear or helpful or entertaining or inspiring, whatever they're trying to do, way. Does that help to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? When I'm doing an evaluation in a competition, and if I have to talk about things, I will talk about things which not everyone will say. I'll come up with more profound things. Especially for the context. Okay. Remember, when summarizing, you have to end on a positive note. So far we talked about all these things. We'll talk about feedback, superlatives, and practice. And then we'll take questions.
Abhijeet, let me just stop you for a minute because I just want to go back to what I was saying. I often talk to speakers about the importance of repeating speeches and bringing the same content, of course, revised over and over again. And I say always, it's not your job to entertain your club members. It's their job to help you communicate your content in the most effective way possible. So maybe that helps.
Yes, you've made an important point here that for a regular club evaluation, you may do these things. I see you make a distinction when for a contest, what you would do. So coming back to the previous slide for the summary, you had 2 points where, this one. No, next one, yeah. Important to end on a positive note, go and motivate the speaker. Now, I agree you would want to do that in a club because you want them to come back and, do the speech. Like Lindy say, you want a different version. Would you do that in a contest as well?
Yes. Okay, I want to tell you this story. He was also a contestant in that. I had my friend give a speech. I was horrified how poor her speech was. Evaluator number 1 comes in and says, "What a wonderful speech!" It's like, oh my God, this is a bold-faced lie. I mean, I want to know it. So it was a fun competition because we already know which evaluator is true to their heart and who is a phony evaluator. So in that also you can come up with the ways of motivating the speaker. I think I really enjoyed Lindy's evaluation in that. Just true, stay true to your heart. Lindy, you remember that competition, right?
Well, I often think in competitions, every district always brings the best speaker in that they can for that, and that is one way to do it. But it also, there's a lot of value in challenging an evaluator's skill to bring in someone who's not as skilled, because to evaluate a speech that really was, C quality and still notice what they did well and still actually encourage them from where they are is an art. So I think this is also a good thing as an evaluator to have a chance to learn how to do that.
Like when you're evaluating and summarizing, right? Usually it just feels like a repeat to the summary part.
Yeah, but I will just do it one-liner, not a complete thing. Just one-liner, very quick, very fast. We will show you
some example.
Yes. And one more thing I wanted to add. Me and Lindy belong to one club together, or 2 clubs together. Okay. One day there was a speaker giving a speech, and after 2 minutes he froze, completely froze. If I am an evaluator, how will I evaluate? But Lindy was his evaluator, and she did a phenomenal job. It's like, oh my God, that was the difference maker between a good evaluator. So that was.
I have no idea what I said, everybody. So there you go.
Okay, let's talk about feedback. I learned this from Ryan Avery. I think he's a 2012 world champion. He came to our district as a keynote speaker. He asked us a question, do you know what is feedback is? And that time I didn't know. But whenever I give a feedback, I don't need to just give an opinion. Hey, your vocal variety was not good. Hey, you need body language. That's not an evaluation. We need to attach a why. Suppose if I'm telling someone, oh, your vocal variety was not there. What I would have said is, hey, when I heard your speech, not feel your emotions. Because when we use the vocal variety, we can share those emotions with the people. So if you can play with your pitch, as well as pace, that can be helpful. Remember, I'm not just giving, I'm giving a why, And now I want to give a specific example. Which section in this? So that is, an opinion is without a why. Ideal feedback needs to have a why attached to it. An ideal feedback also has a specific example. Lindy, anything from your side?
That's good. It's like you spoke too fast versus I would like to see you pause more so we can take it in. When you said this, that pause was perfect because I got to really take it in. You're quoting what they said, and that's the specific example.
Superlatives. This is my favorite thing because my friend, as I told you before, right? There was this competition in my club. We had 8 people, and Renee was one of them. Renee is the co-founder of this club. Came in second that day, and I knew she's a good evaluator. I said, okay, you represent this club, I'll represent another club. But she was a club coach of one club, and I was then area director. She was an evaluator, and I was a GE. Just 2 days before, I'd heard a speech from one of my mentors, Solars. And he talked about superlatives. So when Renee was giving her evaluation, I had that in my mind. Started hearing her evaluation. She started using amazing, 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 amazing 8 times. And what Salazar says, if you're using too many superlatives, it shows the laziness of the usage of the English language. So watch your superlatives. And never start a speech, hey, what a wonderful speech. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to listen to this evaluation. Because there's no why attached to it. It's like, so be very careful with super. Doesn't give much information to the speaker. My friend grew up, I think his wedding last couple of years. I was a test speaker at an evaluation competition in his club. And he was giving me love. The evaluation was superb. I really enjoyed it. But when he was talking about this one point, a long time. Happened a lot. Because of that, he could not summarize. And in the evaluation competition, 15 points are for summary of the evaluation. If you don't summarize it, he rambled so long that he could not summarize it. The second evaluator came in, his points were not as good, but he summarized it. The only reason he lost is because of that. Watch it. Be very careful. You only have 3 minutes. 1 second extra. Get this. Another one of my favorites. You all hear the speech. Sometimes an evaluator gets in and regurgitates the whole speech.
Oh, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Here we just need to analyze what we liked or what we heard, what we saw, what we. So remember that, no regurgitation. Only way to get better. Practice, practice. I talked about Renee, she made it to the quarterfinals, she made it to the semifinals. I knew that she's going to win. I said, Renee, let's practice. So what we did, we went to YouTube, and in 2020, there are 28 semifinal speeches on YouTube. You would give the speech, you'll have 5 minutes to give me an evaluation, and I will give you a critique after that. We did that for 18 times. During the day of the evaluation competition, running, and I was listening to her evaluation. She was well ahead of everyone. Even Solazar called me and said, hey, did you hear Renee's evaluation? She was way ahead of the competition. Well, because of that, practice, practice, practice. You have to practice your brain for 5 minutes because you never know if you are the first evaluator. If you are the last or fourth, it's easy, but first evaluator, you need to be really.
You don't get to hear the others, do you?
No. If you are the first evaluator, you will get to hear the others. If you are the last, you will not. Lindy, you want to add something?
No, I thought that was amazing, the way that you trained Renee, and I remember her telling me how moved she was by my speech, which I was moved by that she was moved. So the ripple effects of active listening and letting people know how you felt are deep and why.
I still remember that morning when he was just crying after she heard her speech, my buried story. So I'll just recap it. I'm not going to go through this list of things because I think, but I'll show you that list. Vocal variety, body language. This is a fun one. I will take you the slides. And I'll show you the recordings from the. We want you to speak and do some evaluation.
I want to ask about content.
Content.
I have heard evaluators discuss the content of this, like, I disagree with this that you said. And I think that's never our purpose. And you know, they're presenting a speech, and if you totally disagree with it, well, that's beside the point, right? Because in new evaluators tend to want to dive into the content instead of the other, you know, instead of that list of things, right? But you have content on there. So what part of content should people be talking about?
Definitely.
I'll
Let me
take that
defer
one.
that.
Yeah.
Let me defer that to Lindy.
Let me start with that one. I'm sure you'll have something to add. When I evaluate content, which I love to do, I look at the whole structure and see, did the structure help me to understand? For instance, maybe they told the story chronologically, but it would have actually helped me more if they had done it differently, mixed it up. So what's the order that they told things in? Did they tell it in scenes? Did they tell it using narrative and dialogue, or did they use all narration? So that's could be a different word, could be style of speech style, but content is the word that gets used. What words did you choose and why? Also among content for me are things like word pictures and use of sensory details, you know, that draw you in. Also, some of the things that about how it makes you feel, was there suspense? Yeah, you can go now, Abhijeet.
Yes, me and Lindy belong to the same club, and we have 4 evaluations for 3 minutes. So content, vocal variety, visual, and manual. So one of the things which we look for is transitions. I had a speech yesterday morning. One of my friends, Susan, was giving it. She had 3-4 stories. But the transitions were so abrupt that it was hard for me to catch up. The transitions, look for transitions in the speeches. Any questions, anything, any?
What were the 4
even-
things you just?
Yes. Go ahead, Lindy, go ahead.
Even transitions are in service of a why. The transitions, if you have multiple stories, you have a whole shape of your speech. What is that whole shape, and what is that person trying to achieve with the speech? If there are multiple stories, then the transition should help you to connect the dots. They should help you to understand how they relate to the person who's speaking and to the message. So even the transitions are not just because you need transitions, it's because they help give the whole thing shape. When you watch a movie that has a bunch of different scenes, it makes sense because you understand what the whole plot is. You understand what's sometimes called story arc, the arc of the story. Does that help? Who knows? But I'll add that.
Oh, thanks a lot. Actually, Lindy just gave a presentation on the 7 things how to improve your speech. What was the title of the speech, Lindy?
7 steps to a standing ovation. The emotional, the shape, the emotional, the emotional journey of a great speech.
So I will share that video with you. Phenomenal. Watch. You're asking a question. The 4th thing was pathway. Pathway project. So remember the 3 things. Don't be in ruinous empathy or obnoxious aggression. Remember the I statements. I saw, I felt, I heard. And give a feedback with a why and a specific.
With all that said, I want to point out that sometimes you have a whole club full of practiced evaluators, and then someone walks in who's not a Toastmaster, and they listen and they naively offer to evaluate, and then they say something about the speech that's brilliant. So evaluating doesn't have to mean that you know a whole lot about crafting. It means that you listened and you considered, how did this affect me, and what about this did I like, and what about it would make it even better?
Feelings. Share the impact of that speech with the speaker. Any questions, anyone? People online, anyone?
All quiet.
Yes, all quiet? Okay, I'll give it back to our Toastmaster, back to Ramya.
Thank you, Lindy and Abhijeet, for a wonderful workshop. I mean, this is the 3rd time I'm attending one of the workshops, but I always walk away with really useful information. Thank you, Lindy, for being here, and also Abhijeet. Now we'll move on to our test speaker for tonight, which is Preeta. So Preeta's project introduces the value of mentorship and the Toastmasters view of mentors and proteges. The purpose of Preeta's speech is to share some aspects of her experience in getting coached and mentored. This will be a level 2 speech in leadership development pathway. The speaker, Preeta Menon, 60 seconds on skis. 60 seconds on skis, Preeta Menon.
Good evening, everyone. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. These insightful words bring to mind the significance of coaching and mentoring. 2 terms often used interchangeably, but with very distinct nuances. Coaching and mentoring deliver the same values, but their interpretations are usually perceived differently. Coaching helps you develop specific skill sets. Mentoring helps you develop a plan towards accomplishing a broader goal over a period of time. Now, to illustrate some of the essences of coaching and mentoring, I'll narrate my story of when I first learned to ski. My spouse had surprised me with a gift, a 2-day ski package at Lake Tahoe, in which it included lessons as well. We bought our gear and I had dreams of skiing downhill using the S moves. On day 1, our instructor, young lady, had to oversee about 25 novice learners. She gave us general directions, helped us put on our skis, and taught us how to practice the ski stance. Bend your knees slightly and lean forward. And she also gave us very generic directions like stand tall and strong, look where you're going. Now you're free to ski, but don't forget your stance. Most of my fellow skiers rushed off enthusiastically. I was petrified. for I did not understand her directions and I was really scared of falling. Still, I attempted the stance. Within a couple of seconds, I fell sideways. That was the pattern I followed on day one. I was mostly on the ground than on my skis. Fellow learners, including my partner, skied past me, offered me tips. Tilt your head slightly to the right, bend your knees slightly to the left. My instructor would occasionally stop by and encourage me. Don't be afraid and let the wind help you. By day one, I mastered the art of how not to ski. I had the unique distinction of not being able to stand on my skis for more than 5 seconds. My partner had timed it. Our instructor said, "Great job, everyone. And tomorrow we'll go on the bunny slopes. Are you all excited?" And everyone said, "Yay!" Not me. I was looking for an excuse to quit. Seeing my weary face, my instructor and my partner came up to me and they gently suggested that I take up not go to the bunny slopes the next day, but instead still master the art of how to stand on my skis, with my skis. So on day two, while all the others rushed up to the bunny slopes, I utilized all the tips I heard from the previous day just to stand with my skis on. Now you would all think my story ends with me skiing down the bunny slopes. But there was no such luck. No such luck. Instead, it was a slow and painful process as I continued to fall every way humanly possible. By the end of the session, every muscle in my body ached, and in places where I did not know could hurt. Nevertheless, towards the end of day two, I could finally stand on my skis for a full 30 seconds, 60 seconds without falling. Someone said, "You were like the little engine that could." I finally smiled and accepted the hugs everyone gave me. As you can see, my ski story is interspersed with both coaching and mentoring moments. They work together, both coaching and mentoring, which I received from several folks. And I developed the skill set of the ski stance. The mentoring helped me plan towards accomplishing the broader goal of standing for 60 seconds on my skis. Do you guys recognize any other coaching or mentoring moments in my story? To reiterate the importance of coaching and mentoring. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for the great speech. Now we'll have 5 minutes before we start with all the evaluations. So I'll just have the list of people who will be participating in the evaluation. First evaluator will be Akila. Second one will be Ramona. Third, Nita. Fourth is Jagan. And fifth is Vaibhav. Sixth, Sharat. Seventh will be Himakshi. Timer, can we have 5 minutes on the clock, please? Mine is thumbs up. Evaluated. So once you give your evaluation for the speech, you will also receive feedback from either Lindy or Abhijeet for your evaluation. So let's start with the evaluator. First evaluator, Akila. Akila, could you please share your evaluation for Akila?
Good evening, everyone. I don't think
She's afraid of your evaluation.
I'm more afraid. Let me wait for her.
I can record.
I was told skiing was easy to learn but hard to master. But even when I was skiing, I was like, learning is so hard, and how did they come up with this? Rita, I'm glad that I was not alone here. Rita was also going through the same phase. So the speech was very relatable because I had gone through the same things. I really liked that thing about the speech. She opened it with a bang. She had a really interesting quote. So that had us lean into the speech. The second thing that I liked about the speech was humor. She had us laugh so many times. And she also involved with the audience with a question to us. She asked us how many times we had moments where we had to distinguish between mentoring and coaching. I like that part about her speech. To make the speech more effective, I would have her lose the paper because she could use her hands more. And also it would feel like a story that is coming out of her heart, like a narrative out of her heart. Second thing that she could improve on to make the speech more effective was she could have added specific examples where moments of to distinguish between moments of coaching versus mentoring, because at least for me, I was finding it hard to distinguish between those moments in her speech. So maybe specific example all along her speech
would have made it more impactful, or at least like more understandable to me. To summarize, the speech would be more effective without the paper if she had memorized the speech, and if she had specific examples throughout so that it would be more understandable and relatable to the audience. Things I liked about the speech was her opening and humor. Thanks, Preeta. Thanks for the speech.
Lindy, feedback for our first evaluator.
Thank you, Akila. I'm struggling a little with audio. There's some thumping and another microphone, so I'm not sure that I heard everything. When you began, it was really clear that you empathized, and I liked that opening. In fact, you leaned into empathy as one of the strengths of her speech. You chose specific things that you liked and told her why. When you were offering suggestions, you know, I wish I could go back and listen again, but because I wrote down, lose the paper, add specific examples. I don't remember whether that was framed by, in my opinion, or in my experience. Some kind of I statement would help to make it more of an observation instead of a judgment. As you wrapped up, again, you said the speech would be more effective. Again, I would encourage saying, in my opinion, the speech would be more effective. You've taken in the teaching well today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindy. Thank you. There's just one feedback for you. I want you to talk to me as the person. So,
Abhijeet, we can't hear you. We can just hear thumping over here. I don't know what.
Is it better?
I think it's very distracting, the noise.
We'll just wait for 2 minutes and then we'll start.
But at that point,
They're cleaning up some stuff in the room. Lindy.
Okay, that's what's going on. Thank you for
What are you
explaining.
guys doing? We hired a band as entertainment.
Oh, why aren't you dancing? I would get it then.
You were saying something?
Yes, you were saying, we mentioned about speaking directly to, I was watching some of the YouTube videos, and I think somebody had run from world competition. And his feedback was that to talk actually to the audience and refer to the speaker in third person, because that way you're connecting with the audience also and not alienating the audience and having a one-on-one with the speaker.
I think I don't agree with that. But what happens is if I talk as a third person, the connection with the heart is not there. You see, it doesn't land very well. Like even if I'm listening to it, I don't feel.
I also, if I'd been the speaker and you're speaking that way, I feel like, hey, I'm in the room here. You can talk to me.
Look at me.
Right?
Thank you, Akila. Our next evaluator is Ramona.
Hi, everyone. I connected with your story. It was very realistic and very relatable. I think that's how everybody starts their learning process, basically, like learn anything. It was very humorous. Some of the things that I liked about your speech, when you said you felt every humanly way possible, it was very, very funny. And it was very engaging, your vocal variety, you emphasized on some things and grabbed audience attention. Some things that I think you can work on,
gesture that somebody mentioned already. That you could maybe use more body language, use stage more a little bit. And I would really like you to connect with the audience more, talk to us, make eye contact, tell us your story lightly, maybe. And the topic was mentorship, and so there were two things, mentorship and coaching. I would like to see like some more like specific examples for both the things. I was confused about both events, examples for mentorship and coaching. So I was confused on that part. To summarize, in my opinion, work on body language, with audience more, eye contact, and this conversation. I loved your story. It was very realistic, very relatable, very humorous, very funny. And the best part was you could stand on your ski for 2 minutes. Great, you did it.
Feedback on the evaluative.
Tell me your name again.
Ramona.
Ramona. My favorite things that you did, Ramona, were your kind tone and your authentic voice quality. And you used your own sense of humor as you were winding up about her falling and staying up for as long as she did. The biggest pointer I would give you from my perspective, well, that's my camera, isn't it? It's weird. It doesn't been doing that. I must want to be ghostly today, so you'll have to excuse me. You had several pointers, but you didn't demonstrate or choose an example. I would like it better when you say it was very engaging, vocal variety, when you said blah, blah, blah. In contrast, you could have said blah, blah, blah. So you demonstrate what she did and what can happen differently. That way, instead of saying, I want you to use more gestures and more body language, give an example. Say, don't forget your stance. Give an example of how that might work into the speech. That's my feedback. You're on the right track, moving in the right direction. Thank you.
One of things to make it more effective. Open. I want you to think about what does it remind you of. Because that first sentence is very important. But how does it impact you? And one small thing I found in your evaluation is you talked about audience awareness. I want you to talk about yourself rather than the audience awareness. Talk about what you felt rather than what the audience feels. Because sometimes my mentor told me, you don't speak for us, you speak for yourself.
Thanks, Abhijeet. Thanks, Ramona. Thanks, Lindy. Our next evaluator is Neeta. Neeta, can you share your evaluation for me?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Preeta.
I'm going to turn my camera off so I'm not towering over you, okay? I'll be here.
Okay, I can stand here. Preeta, I totally connected with you. Just that I had my friend fall along with me as well. So, very nice speech, Preeta. This is what I think. I think you started with the quote to catch audience attention, which is very good. And throughout your speech, you showed emotions, like with the vocal variety as well. That is what I thought. You were like excited about skiing when like suddenly you had your husband had given you the cardboard with, and you were very excited about it. And you were sad when you were not able to actually succeed and well. Another thing was your pace was good. Like your words were very clear as you were speaking, and you had enough pauses so you could like observe the content, what you want. I think to improve, right? You got rid of the paper. Of course, you could have given more gestures like, oh, I was skiing like this and I fell. More use of the also, your introduction was like very clear, telling this is what I'm going to talk about, and you gave an example. But I think as you came to the conclusion, I was not able to completely connect with respect to the difference. At that point, if you had like even made the current example better to differentiate between coaching and mentoring. So in summary, yeah, if you had got rid of the paper and given a more precise example, good. And also your emotion, vocal variety in the speech, along with your pace, with very good amount of pauses, very good, and also your quote at the beginning was good.
Feedback?
You go first this time, Abhijeet.
Oh, no, it's okay. Okay. I felt you're very sheepish. Sheepish. So I want you to be very direct. Anita, here are the things you did effectively. And here are the things you could do to make your speech more effective. Open up your heart. It's just, don't be afraid. If you're afraid, it's gone. The intensity is not there. Lindy.
I agree. Be bold. You make a mistake, great. That's the best thing to do. A couple of you have started, including you. I totally connected with you. Even better is to say, you made me remember the first time I tried skiing and fell over and over again, or whatever memory, because it's specific and it's for you. So rather than saying, I totally connected with you, tell us more about that. And less, I totally connected with you. You reminded me of. It's a great first 4 words. Again, when you brought up pauses, demonstrate. Now, this is how one thing you need this note taking for, when you need to write down the words before and after so that you can say, when you paused at this point, it served this purpose. Again, the more that you can give specific examples, the more helpful it is going to be. Because otherwise they go home and say, oh, they said to pause. Well, where am I supposed to pause and why? You were direct about the body language. I skied and I fell. Again, encourage you to take risks. I kept falling every which way imaginable. One leg was up here, my arm was up here, and my, go ahead and go outside of the box and try something bigger when you're giving a pointer, because it will make everyone laugh and it will give everyone permission to stretch. Thank you for your heartfelt evaluation.
Evaluate is Jatin. Share your feedback.
Firstly, I'll thank Gail for clapping. And Preeta, of course, for that lovely speech. I'm happy you chose skiing as your topic, because I have over a decade under my belt on skiing, and hopefully I can give a very professional evaluation because it's linked to that. That said, 1, you made it very interesting, Preeta. And 2, you kept it relevant to your pathway. I won't leave it at a lineage, I will dig deeper. Interesting. The choice of using two different words to highlight all through your speech, like coaching versus mentoring, that was the key. That was very impressive. I can elaborate. Suppose I want to talk about dew in the morning. Oh, I can be poetic. I can, inspire audience. But the moment I say dew versus mist, it will keep the audience thinking, oh, they both are different. There has to be something. What is it? And it's not clear. Same applies to coaching and mentoring. Yeah, unless you thought through it, prepared some insight, you can come up with that, and then it's informational, it's engaging. So that was good, the way you chose two coin words. The second thing I said was, it was very relevant to your pathway. I myself have faced this when I'm giving a speech. So I think of a topic, but how do I make it and link it very well with my path? And I admit, I had to push corners. And I myself, I used to doubt myself. Wait a minute, is it making sense? At the end, will it come out to be something disjoint? No, your choice was very correct, right on, spot on. Coaching and mentoring, what you think of them, how you differentiate them, it's linked to your path. So that's very kudos. Of course, I will find something, or I'll make up something to give you a suggestion. I felt you could link it better to the actual point you're trying to make. Like, yes, you started off saying coaching versus mentoring. You had several anecdotes, so you could have linked better. Like, because I was falling, I felt he was just coaching me. Because the other people were like, yeah, tomorrow bunny slopes. So there they felt like a mentor. Okay. You could have illustrated a few things like that. And secondly, I would say, in spite of you holding a paper, okay, there was more scope for body language. The topic you chose, it had a lot of physical dynamics, and others were happy. And what about you? You didn't show your sad face, the way you were not performing. So yeah, press a little more on the body language. And in closing, I would like to say, you did grab audience attention very well, and there was a lot of value in your content. It was a pleasure listening to your speech. All the best.
You want me to go first this time?
Yes, please.
All right. You have a lot of confidence that shows in your body language as you're evaluating. You're very articulate. Your words came across really clearly. My favorite parts were when you pointed out the relevance of the path and how, because that's something everyone struggles with. And so that was really nicely acknowledged. I noticed the eye language when you said, I felt you can link it better. And I like the illustration. Yeah, tomorrow is bunny slopes. That was really nicely done. My one caution to you in your opening to put people at ease, you were pointing out your own expertise in skiing. And it was a little bit humorous, but it also really put the focus on you, which is not where you want the focus to be. You want the focus to be on them and their speech. So watch with the self-aggrandizement or about what an expert you are. I know you were just being funny, and that makes it about you instead of about her and her speech. So, Abhijeet.
I want to structure your evaluation. Just immediately say, okay, here are the things you did effectively. Yes, then as the audience, I know you're talking about these things, and the speaker knows, okay, here are the things I did effectively. And then talk about the things, oh, here are the things you could do to make your speech more effective. So it gives a nice structure. And say those words because that really helps. And summarize it properly. You only summarized the one side, you didn't summarize the whole evaluation. So because 15% of your marks will be on.
And did you see what Abhijeet just did? Do that too when you're using the stage. Here are the things you did effectively. Here are the things you can do even better. Actually move your body. That's one of a really clear transition when you use your body to do that. And it helps you to step into a new space.
Thank you, Lindy. Thanks, Jagat. Next evaluator is Vaibhav. Vaibhav, could you please come up with the evaluation?
Oh my God, Peter, it was a wonderful speech. I'll go with my actual evaluation now. So I didn't take Lindy's advice today, and then I just put 2 columns, and then now everything is jumbled. So I'll have to figure out things just to keep things in order. So here are the things that you did really effectively. So I'll start with your body language and vocal variety. So when you said things like bend your knee slightly and lean forward, or don't be afraid and let the wind help you. So in these 2 specific sentences, I loved your body language and also the pauses that you took. It was really effective in communicating your feelings to the audience that time. When you said, so basically in the entire speech, initially I thought, okay, now you're going downhill. So there'll be an element that will come in which will make you succeed. But then you specifically pointed out, okay, now you're thinking, I have done it. But then, so in my opinion, like I thought that it was a surprise element, and then it took me by surprise, because I felt that in life we have to go through constant spree of failures, like hundreds of failures before we actually succeed. So I think that was it connected with me. The things that could make your speech more effective are following. One is I would have loved your speech even more if you had more eye contact with the audience, because now like as you were going through the speech, so you were constantly looking into the paper. It could happen because of how you prepared, or like maybe you would not have gotten time to prepare, so that's another thing. But then it would have connected with me more if there was more eye contact and less looking into the paper. I would have also liked more if, as other people pointed out, that if your point of telling about coaching versus mentoring, if you had given more examples on that, it would have made things more clear and effective towards the end. So yeah, to summarize, I would have loved if you would have made more eye contact, and if you would have given specific examples on coaching versus mentoring. And then I loved your vocal variety, the body language, and the pauses that you're taken. I forgot about the humor part. It was really funny at some of the places. Like I really laughed out loud. And then the main point I really liked about your speech was the surprise element, where I expected that now you are going to succeed, but then even though you did, but then not up to the point like a super success that I was hoping for. So that was, I think, it related to me. Thank you.
Lindy?
Great opening. You made everyone laugh. Hooray. That's the fabulous thing. Your volume was excellent. The clarity was excellent. You used, in my opinion. I like that you gave a why it would help to get off paper and why more eye contact would help. So that was, as Abhijeet's definition of feedback, to provide the why. My one pointer, I didn't hear your close, so I'm not sure about your close, so I missed the last lines. But I would bring up the superlatives thing, and this is just a challenge because you didn't do a lot of it. But this is what we learned to do in America. I loved, I really liked, I loved, I really liked, I loved, I really liked. So I challenge you to go home and make a list. I appreciated, I admired. I find a bunch of other words that you could possibly use that are positive words. Abhijeet.
I enjoyed your evaluation, but one thing, when you're talking about the second point about the surprise element, when you talked about it first time, it was not very clear. Are you talking about things she did effectively, or you're talking about the other side? Because I was like, oh, where is he? So make it very clear. Surprise element, because in the end, you made it very clear, but not while talking. water.
Our next evaluator is Sharapli. Can you please come up and share your evaluation?
Good evening, everybody, and hello, Rita. Let me tell you that I was totally connected with your speech because I can relate it to my experience few years back. And I can totally feel you when you were telling, like, when that instructor was telling you to just go with the flow or whatever it is. You showed that expression on your face, and I can feel it because I was in that same boat when I was experiencing that. So I could connect easily with your speech. So thanks for sharing your story. There are a couple of things which I have noticed, and there are good and little bit growth area where you can improve. So I'll start with vocal variety. Initially, I felt there was no vocal variety because you were just, concentrating on your material, because once you start, I think that happens. With me also it happens. So you started with same pace. And later I saw, like after a minute or so, you started with the vocal variety. You showed your expressions, and then made good body language postures and all. So your vocal variety was matching your body flow. That was great. But I would say, like, you could have showed more vocal variety, as in when you're saying that the instructor told me this, then you can show his expression. He told me like this, and what I felt when I was in my place on ski. So you could have shown two different vocal variety at that time, expressing your feeling as well as how instructor was giving you the instructions. And then next I go to the body language. I like the body language. You showed the ski, how you were holding and how you were matching your body language with your expression. But when you're presenting yourself in front of audience and when you are in person, you have a space to move and show. So you can say, like, I went a little bit forward, then how I felt, and then when I started, how I was shivering. So some feelings, some expressions with your body language and vocal variety. So that whole package gives audience to connect more. So in summary, I would say you can avoid notes, because that was little distracting for audience, because for me, I felt you were more focusing on notes rather than connecting to the audience. So that is one thing. And second, you can, start the speech by saying, have you ever experienced your ski thing? So involve your audience in the first stage. But I definitely liked your quote in the beginning and in the end, because that definitely made us feel that, oh yeah, we can relate that context with your speech. And yes, your coaching and mentoring comparison was amazing. Thank you.
Ready?
You had very warm tone of voice. You were very cheerful. You were inviting to speak to. You seem to organize this by vocal variety, body language, and you talked about pluses and minuses under each. It's actually harder to follow that way, in my opinion. I would rather see you do it as Abhijeet recommends, where you say, here are the things that I enjoyed, and pick out the parts that really work from the body, from the vocal variety, rather than saying, I felt none, and then later, because we get confused going back and forth. In the summary, I felt you brought in things that I hadn't heard before. So you won't want to do that in the summary because it's new things. You said avoid notes and the beginning with a question. Have you ever experienced? These were good feedback, but don't put them in the summary if you haven't already said them. Abhijeet.
So much. One thing I tell evaluators is no dancing. Because you are, if you talk about things which are done effectively, don't talk about the same thing in the other bucket, because for my brain it's confusing. One more thing I want to tell you all, this evaluations is a journey. When I started, I was freaked out with evaluations. I remember my first evaluation, it was 1 minute 41 seconds. I was dreading every moment of it. But then what I decided is, I want to get better. I would write my whole evaluation. I would just read it. I was not very confident that my sentence formation will be there. So it's a journey. Just enjoy that journey.
Thanks, Abhijeet. Thanks, Shravan. Last evaluator is Makshi. Makshi, can you share your evaluation for previous speech?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Preeta, for sharing your story. I second that thought when you mentioned, involve me, I learn. Having a mentor who believes in you can help you achieve things you thought impossible at first. You reminded me of my Toastmasters journey, where Abhijeet, my mentor, believed in me and gave me different roles to try. Just like you grew and your mentor helped you to stand on ski for 2 minutes. I liked a few things about your speech. Firstly, I loved the vocal variety during speech. When you said, don't be afraid and let the wind help you. And also you slowed down when you said slow and painful. Secondly, I found your hand movements particularly engaging, especially when you compared coaching on one side and mentoring on the other. Also, when you celebrated and said, yay. However, two things that I felt would make your speech effective are, I noticed you remained still in one place when you spoke. It would be more effective if you could move around the stage and use the stage area. Also, I would like to hear more in the conclusion, and it would be great if you could add probably a question to let the audience think about how mentorship helped them in their life. The best part of the speech is the message you gave. Tell me, I forget. Teach me, I remember. And involve me, I learn. And you linked it with the message how mentorship can help us achieve and grow better. In summary, two things you can focus on is using the stage area more and using more points or question in the conclusion. And two things you mastered are vocal variety and hand gestures. Looking forward to hearing more from you. Thank you.
Lindy?
That was masterfully done. I enjoyed it. Thank you. I would have gotten to, you reminded me, I would have just begun with that. You reminded me instead of the first two things, although your first 2 points were also good. Just dive right into your personal experience. I like that. I like that you said the word I noticed. You said it would be more effective. I would again encourage you to say, I feel it would be more effective. You requoted the opening and closing quote to great effect. That was really beautiful. Nicely done. Very encouraging evaluation, very clear.
Makshi, one sentence I want you to get rid of. There are few things you did effectively. That statement means like when me and Renee practice, we would say it in a different way. There are many things you did effectively. Here are few of them. See how this is a big difference. Here are the few things you did effectively.
Thank you, Lindy, for being here and running our workshop and sharing your feedback on all the evaluations. And thanks to all the participants for participating in the 307 evaluations today, and also feedback for everything and successful workshop. I think. So now I'll pass it back to Peter, check in with our guests and.
I'd like to reiterate once again, thank you, Lindy, for providing all this effective feedback and, talking the talk for both of you. I think you sort of modeled how it would be to give good feedback. It's really informative for all of us. Really appreciate it. Now that you've got an excellent template, I'd like all of you to participate in next week's contest, which will be held at our club. We'll be sending, I think Sarah's already sent you the form. I want to see responses, and by Friday, I'd like to see a good number. Right now, we don't have any, and I like women need to lead. And so we should have a good number of participants who should be participating. And I'd like to see, if not, I will be calling all of you. Also be. That being said, we have a couple of guests in our audience. I'd like to get feedback from them. Yes, Sarabin. I'm sorry, did I pronounce your name correctly? Yes. Back of the workshop and.
Lindy, there is a request from our Vice President of Education. He wants to hear your remote workshop, which you did at the group in March. Is that possible?
Yes, please send me that email again. When it arrived the first time, I was in the middle of trying to be a chief judge and I struggled for a while. So please send it to me again and I will answer right away this time.
Thank you so much, Lindy.
And let me add to that encouragement to be involved in the evaluation contest. You don't have to prepare for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks like you do with the speech contests. And the other thing I want you to realize is that the better evaluator you become, the better speaker you become. The better speaker you become, the better evaluator you become. These skill sets feed each other. So whichever part of it you want, the other part of it is going to help you. So don't be shy, participate.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting us to be part of this. I really appreciate Master Group because I think I met a couple of you in December event, and that way, like I know a couple of you, so I was feeling friendly to be here. And thanks, Abhijeet, for presenting this great workshop. And this is really helpful. And I'll request you to please send the deck to us so that we can learn more sitting at home and brush our skills. And thanks for the feedback. And thanks, Lindy, for the feedback. That is really great because I am just 2 months old. I'm a new baby to Toastmaster. So I want more feedbacks and more mentors to learn from you all. If you are just 1 month older to me, still I treat you like a senior. So please feel free to throw the feedbacks to learn. I really want to grow in this. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, great.
Yeah, first I want to thank our trainer today, Abhijeet, and also Lindy. I think you both did a wonderful job. I decided I will sign up and apply what I learned next week before I deliver my icebreaker on the Valentine's Day. And since I'm the timer, as long as we scale, it's my duty to report the time usage today. For our prepared speaker, Prita used 5 minutes, 16 seconds. For our first evaluator, Akila used 2 minutes, 5 seconds. Ramona used 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Snitha used 2 minutes, 25 seconds. Jagan used 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Balfour used 3 minutes, 13 seconds. And Sarabin used 3 minutes, 16 seconds. And Himashi used 2 minutes, 15 seconds. All qualified in terms of time.
Thank you.
I have a question. What should you target for time for an evaluation? You know, I mean, you kind of gotta
This is
own yourself. It just occurred to me, what would
This is
you?
a very good question Karen are asking. Most of you are like wondering about the time, and I think Abhijeet, you can answer.
Lindy, you want to answer that? Timing?
Evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes, and qualifying times in a contest are 1.5 minutes to 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I cannot tell you how many contests I have been disqualified from running overtime. So
Okay.
following Abhijeet's recommendation to pick 2 things of each, 2 good things, 2 things will
Time
help you
limited.
get it within time. So it's far better to have it be a little shorter than it is to run overtime.
One thing I would like to encourage is after the yellow sign you see, start summarizing. Like give yourself 10 seconds and start summarizing.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad I bumped into Preeta at the TNI session last Saturday. Happy to be here. Actually, I'm part of Cadence algorithms just down the road. And this was my first workshop, and it was wonderful to be here in this informal setting, learning from the experts and it's just wonderful feedback, learning about the structure and how to do an evaluation. Great tips. Thanks for having me and learned a lot.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Anuja. I'm also part of the Cadence algorithms Toastmasters group. I recently joined Toastmasters, so it's nice joining another Toastmasters group. I really enjoyed today's meeting and the workshop. I thought it was really informative. I recently gave my first evaluation, and I thought all the things I learned today are great points for me to take and move forward for all my future evaluations. So thank you for hosting this workshop and
You'll be the evaluator for my speech in 2 weeks.
perfect timing.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Preeta, all in all, thanks to you for doing this because we had to practice how to give positive feedback. We just pounded on you. If I was playing that role, I would not have been happy with myself. So, thanks for being the scapegoat and lab rat.
Thank you. I appreciated that, being the lab rat and having everyone pound on
We had to pick something.
because I heard that Lindy said, I think earlier, that she was so mad. And I was like, oh my God, I can't be that. I'm going to get 7 evaluations. I can't get mad each time. So, that being said, Karen has a very important announcement, and I don't think the online gets.
You are all part of a very important experiment. This is Toastmasters going crazy. We're starting to get clubs to combine together and do stuff together. And so I want to make a couple of offers. I'm in a scumbag club. Now, a lot of people go, scumbag, who the hell would want to go talk to a scumbag? Well, it's Santa Clara University, MBA Toastmasters, so really not that bad.
You should stop.
But if you really want to be a scumbag, you have to graduate from Santa Clara University, okay? So, and with an MBA, and then you become a scumbag. And when I found that out, I thought, I went to school for 2 years to become a scumbag, really? Anyway, so I'm with the Scumbag Club. We had a speaker cancellation. We have an open speaking slot on Friday night. If anybody happens to be practicing a contest speech and would like a speaking slot, or take up one of your old speeches and try it again with just a few days of practice. So it's open, right? But the other thing we're doing, and you'll get an email from Preeta or Sarah, somebody, whoever sends out the emails. You do feel the heat right here.
Yeah.
You said that, and I was like, you can feel the heat off the screen. It's red. It's electric. It kind of pulls your hair. It's very strange. You guys can get up there and try it for a nickel. I'm trying to make some extra money. I'm sorry. We're gonna do a joint workshop between 3 Toastmasters clubs on interviewing. Now, I'm sure none of you are interested in interviewing because y'all have the dream job, right? Right? Okay, so, but I mean, it's still good tips and stuff, right, on interviewing. So that's gonna be in February 16th. They'll send out some information, but there's a couple of roles we're looking to fill in that because we're gonna group people together and we want some more experienced people to come in and help the less experienced people and pair people up so they get some one-on-one feedback. And it's gonna be about real, we're gonna ask the questions like, so tell me about yourself. Who likes that question? There's no hands. Oh, one. Okay, one person says I like that question. Everybody hates that question. It's like, where the hell did you start? What do you want to know? So you'll see that in email. So I encourage you, Anne, if you want to speak on Friday, I have a club for you, 6 o'clock Friday night. Scumbags. Thank you.
Rita, you get to speak because you got all that feedback. So now you need to take that speech and redo it.
Yeah, sure. Yes, I'll do that. Thank you, Lindy. I think we are done for close. Looking forward to the forms, new responses on the forms. And if you are not participating, we have a couple of roles to fill. If you are, your first priority should be to participate. We can have a second priority as. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Looking forward to seeing all of you next week.
All meetings are just 1 hour today, the special.
Today's special event.
Thank you, Lindy. Thank you so much. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Sarah.